Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Monday, it's March the 30th. We've almost got this month behind us. Um, I don't know where the first quarter is gone, but it went by really quickly. It seemed like we were just starting January, first few days of the year, just a week or two ago. But anyway, today was a pretty good trading day. The first thing I would have done after when I came in, we already had this channel working up. We had the break and we found support, where you'd usually expect right here at the EMA. Pretty good sell-off down to that point, um, but you got to be looking for a chance to possibly go long here, because we're probably going to test this high. Okay, barely get started, I get interrupted, but anyway, you got your first leg up, and so you should have been looking for a measured move up to that point today, which that's around. I think we missed it by maybe two ticks. That puts it 2082 and a quarter, and you see we got to 2081.70. So we missed that target by two ticks, and then we started selling off. So generally, that's going to get you in uh, the right vicinity as far as a target. So that's the way I like to do it. There weren't as many trades today. I say that, and I mean, really, when you're working up like this and it's steadily going up, you really just need to look for a reason to enter. I only marked the good trades, the ones that I felt were the best or the most solid trades. Although, you can't hardly go wrong. This doesn't look like a real strong trend, but when you start to see all these bars stacked up side by side and lots of dojis, it just keeps going higher. Um, that's really a strong trend, and it started doing that right in here about 7:30, 8:30 this morning, and it did that all day. Of course, we corrected back. I wasn't sure about this red channel early on this morning when I did the midday chart, but it looks like it was valid. We bounced right off that line. I found it by drawing it off the top and dragging it down, and but you had this channel to break the new high, and then a correction, and we really almost started another channel up there, and this one's probably two-tiered as well. You can see that. That's probably a nice two-tiered channel on this new one. And then we had the break here. But really, if you saw the red channel, which is what you probably should have been playing, that would have kept you on the right side going higher. And of course, looking for the target too. So there's a couple different, and there's some shorter term ones. You got a short term channel working up here. You got a short term one working down. And there's even one working right up through here. So they're there, and it always helps to draw them um, like so, because then you get your break and you high, then you get your correction. And like I said, I do believe there's probably, you can see that's a nice midline across there. So you can see that two-tiered channel working higher there, and it's valid as well. Uh, so get down to whatever level you got to keep you on the right side, and that generally is going to help you stay on the right side. So, but let's back out a little more, talk about the trades. Not many today. Some of them are pretty good trades, but not many of them today. So, it won't take long to really work through this. But the first trade I saw, of course, we're working up. We get the break. You actually get a second entry long right here, but then it pulls back and it gives you a second entry off the low. This is a pretty big bar. Okay, I can't seem to stay on track today. But anyway, there's a second entry long here. You needed to wait on this bar. This is a fairly large bar. So what I would do was probably try to get a limit order, get a tick or so back in. Actually, you could have gotten filled way back here. Um, so, but I would have definitely tried to get a tick or two back into that bar. And and this is one where when it failed and turned back up again, I would have added on. Or if I wasn't in it, I'd definitely jump in there because this is a failed second entry short. It turns into a nice trap, and you can see how it takes off pretty quickly then. You could have had runners off of either one of these, and then it pulls back again, and it comes off right off a possible trend line there. Uh, you wouldn't have really known, probably had this midline here yet, because I got that by drawing it off this high and then pulling it down, uh, and finding the low and then looking for the midpoint. And of course, it does turn out to act like a midpoint up through there. So this is like a breakout pullback long, because this ended up looking a little bit congestive, and so it pulls back and takes off again. And I set a short-term trend line off of that. I probably should have this a little bit lighter. I usually try to put my short-term ones lighter like that, just so the chart doesn't get all cluttered and ugly. And it was real tempting to enter here. It broke lower first and turned up, but I didn't feel like it quite touched the trend line yet, so I was a little bit worried about it. It does touch it here, but then you're going long right into this high, and it's acting as resistance. So I thought you were better off to wait on the breakout pullback long. And then it's still, everything's going right off that trend line. So I like that one. And it didn't go very far, though. It pulls back again. I just think it's really risky to enter any more up through there. So I didn't mark any. It went quite a bit higher. But if you're still riding any of these, you don't want to risk this trade up here. And if you've already made a nice profit off these and exited, you don't want to risk that by jumping in up here this far away. We just been away from the EMA way too long. Then, of course, you got your break of this one and a new high. So it's time for a correction. So be real careful getting long anymore. Wait and see what happens. So by that time, I'm looking for prices to come back here. I was a little surprised that it started working higher, but notice it didn't do much until right here where it touches the trend line, and that's where you get your boost again. And that's why I'm always saying those key entry points are usually going to be those trend lines if you can find them. And of course, there are, you did get these bounces off this trend line. This one was real tempting here. But we weren't back over here yet, and I wasn't sure that I trusted this one. And it's looking a little flat, so there's too big a chance you get trapped and it goes up. So I didn't mark any of these. Doesn't mean that you couldn't find an entry in there that would have worked, but I'm not going to mark those kind of trades because they're too risky. So this was a failed second entry short, just a repeat pattern of this right here, almost exactly. New low, first entry, pullback, second entry, and it was tempting to go short there. Really tempting, but we already had the break of this little channel and a new low, and the EMA is looking pretty flat. So, and this is an upward bias day, so you got to be careful. If you did go short there, you got to reverse. But when you got that nice bearish or bullish reversal bar, I like going long there. Of course, it didn't take off and materialized anything more than a scalp. But then it comes back, and so like I said, there is a second entry long right here, and it did break lower and go higher. And it is off this trend line, so I probably should mark it green just for that purpose. But I just don't like those trades. I really felt like we needed to correct a little more. But you can't argue with the real trend line if you see it there and you get a bounce and a chance to get in with enough room to get out before the high. You just almost have to take it. And then the rest of these are so close to these highs right across there. And guess what? If you just wait a few minutes and you get the nice setup right here, right off the main trend line, and it takes off again. And there's a second entry long there, but then you get a failed second entry short and a chance to go long right there, and another nice move up. Come to find out, that's just a midline there on this little double channel. But I like that one. Just because you got a new low here, first entry, pullback. And that's pretty bearish looking. And you do have a new high in place there. But if you look at this bigger channel, we're not to the upper part. If you're looking at this channel, there's a good chance you're going to get a measured move there. So when you get that trap, just go with it. And if you didn't enter there, you really could have entered here almost, but that's so close to that little double top and just barely above that. This is also a breakout pullback long, this one back here. So, but I think you were a little risky going long on this one. Even though it worked, the better place to enter was here. And then you get another pullback You got a break here to move to a new high, but guess where it comes back? And this really confirms this trend line. It's not a very good setup bar though, uh, but you almost expect it's going to bounce there, and it does. And so if you want to be aggressive, I like that one. There's plenty of room to get out. That's the first real, fairly decent correction we've had in a while since way back over here. We're not quite to the target yet. We're still a few points, a couple of points away. So there's some different reasons. The main is it's right off that trend line, and that confirms it. Then it pulls back. This is right before the 2 o'clock hour. Um, Again, it's not a great setup, but it is off the EMA, and I really thought we were going to push on up here and maybe touch this, at least go to the midline and get our target. But we just never quite make it, and that gets you into the 2 o'clock hour, and not much happening after that. So, but it would have been obvious when it turned down here, a couple more, turns here and then here, that hey, this channel is definitely this shorter term one here. The lighter blue one is actually valid. So, and this is just a midline in here in the middle. Again, not a lot of trades today, but pretty, fairly straightforward. There were some pretty good runners. And, and like I said, really once we started higher again here, you almost could have bought anywhere up into the 2 o'clock hour, any pullback, any correction, and you would have made money. So the only place you couldn't buy was right here at the very high of the day or within a few ticks of it. Anytime you had room there, even when you didn't have room for the most part, if you just followed your shorter term trend lines, you still would have made money. So, but it's hard to justify taking those trades, especially that late in the day. So I just don't feel comfortable marking them because there's always a chance that you're going to be wrong. You just got to get out quickly if you are wrong. And what ends up happening inevitably is about the time you exit here, then it goes higher again. It goes right where you thought it was going to go. So, you got to watch that as well. But I think I'm going to wrap this one up. Not much else we can say about today. Pretty good trading day. It was all uphill. If you just traded uphill into the 2 o'clock hour and you stopped when what I feel is the cutoff time about 2 o'clock, you couldn't go wrong. So just remember when you see lots of these little bars that look like dojis and they just keep working higher and higher, even though it doesn't necessarily look like it, that's a pretty strong trend. So, and this was, if you look from where we opened, 2048 or so, all the way to 2082, that's a huge move today. So we took back a lot of that stuff we sold off last week, and we took a lot of it back today. We're getting back up there to 2100 again, just that quick. So every time we get a big sell-off, generally for the last few years, all it does is lead to a great buying opportunity. And, as a day trader and trading futures, trading the ES, you don't want to hold these overnight. That's my opinion. If you want to try to, next time, this is what I would suggest. And I'm no expert on options or anything like that, but I use them occasionally. And, every time we have one of these big sell-offs, if I think that, we're starting to bottom out, I'll go in there and buy me an option out there and use that to make a nice little bonus check. And, there's no risk other than what you got in it. And, it's been a pretty consistent trade and you can't hardly go wrong with it. So, just something to think about if you want to capitalize on these big sell-offs that we've been having that almost always inevitably come right back again. But you can't, I think it's too dangerous trying to pick bottoms with a futures contract. So, but you can buy an option, a low-cost option that gives you, 30, I like to have one that has at least 60 days on it. That way you got a little room to be wrong, to be wrong. And sure enough, every time they rally like crazy back, and you get a chance to make some money off of them. So, again, I'm not telling anybody to go try to do that. That's just a thought if you want to try to capitalize on these big sell-offs. And, You might find a little information on our website, but nothing really is going to give you any specific rules or anything. So, um, but it's just a low cost, low. I mean, I'm not crazy about. I'd rather sell options than buy them, to be honest, because most of them are going to expire worthless. But when you get something that you see the market doing over and over and over, it's like the repeat pattern thing, and repeat patterns tend to repeat themselves. That's why we call them repeat patterns. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.